Bitcoin's price is down from all-time highs. Is anything wrong with Bitcoin? No, there's never anything wrong with Bitcoin. It's always just 21 million coins. It's always the best money in the world, and it's the Bitcoin blockchain is always processing transactions. So the price right now is $114,000. The all-time high was $124,000. So that's less than 10% from all-time highs since we're above 100. So at 100,000, $10,000 down would be 10%. We're above 100,000, so $10,000 down is less than 10% down from all-time highs. Um, Short take is there's nothing wrong with Bitcoin. In fact, I've spent very little time trying to even figure out in the last couple days why Bitcoin's price is down from all-time highs. A couple reasons for that. One, I know that James Check, my favorite Bitcoin analyst, is going to send out a report that I will read first thing tomorrow morning. He normally does his reports in Australia on Mondays and Thursdays. And by the time we wake up in the United States on Monday morning or Thursday morning, we usually have those reports in our inboxes. And I'm a subscriber to his service for $29 a month, and he's going to tell me what's going on. So I could spend a bunch of time trying to figure it out. But again, in the near term, the price just doesn't matter. There's nothing wrong with Bitcoin. If it's down, it's a buying opportunity. So if I had US dollars I was looking to deploy into Bitcoin, I would be closely following exactly why this happened, exactly why that happened. But I don't have any US dollars to buy Bitcoin because all of the US dollars that I could possibly use to buy Bitcoin have already been converted to Bitcoin a long time ago. I'm 100% Bitcoin. So the beauty of being 100% Bitcoin is I'm just living my life. I'm out shopping, taking care of my family, doing what needs to be done to keep moving Prospero forward, our free private city, charter city project on the island of Roatan. I'm doing all the things that need to be done because I have the financial freedom to do all the things that need to be done. And as I posted yesterday on Facebook, I was out buying a wheelbarrow yesterday because I needed a wheelbarrow. And at $117,000 a coin, the wheelbarrow would have been 70% off because my average cost basis is around $35,000 per Bitcoin. So at 70% off of 117,000, again, my average cost basis is around $35,000, even though I have bought Bitcoin at every price between $6,400 and $124,000. Every single price from 6,400 and up, I have bought Bitcoin because my paycheck hits every 2 weeks. I immediately convert it into Bitcoin, and then I spend Bitcoin on everything I buy with the Coinbase debit card. Using that approach, even the Bitcoin I bought at the end of 2022, specifically for the Coinbase debit card strategy, continues to go up in value as compared to my spending habits. So even that 18 months of living expenses has grown to more than 3.5 years of living expenses. So I'm living for free. In addition to, if you want to calculate it as living for free, I'm living for free. If you want to calculate it as how much of a discount am I living as compared to the cost basis of all the Bitcoin I've ever bought, that's in the ballpark of 69, 70% off of everything I buy. So, same advice as always, buy as much Bitcoin as you can, sit on it for as long as conceivably possible. And in the long term, as Bitcoin's price goes above the price you bought it for, your ability to live life at a discount will go up and up and up. Now, the price of Bitcoin goes up and down on its way up. But it's only a matter of being patient because Bitcoin is the best money in the world, because there's only 21 million, and because the Bitcoin blockchain never stops processing transactions. That means that is a very valuable thing to have, a money with an absolute finite scarcity that is durable, divisible, portable, fungible, authenticatable, verifiable, and most important, scarce, all of the attributes of a good money. Bitcoin is all of those things better than any other money, which means over time, because humans have a need to store their time and energy to spend it later as compared to when they get paid, humans will always need money. Bitcoin will always be a better money than anything that exists in the world. And so eventually the price of Bitcoin will always go up. So what should you do if the price is 10% below its all-time high? Again, if it's me, if I had any US dollars to convert into Bitcoin, I buy stuff when it's on sale. That's what you should do with investments. You should buy it, more of it when it's on sale, assuming it's an asset that will always eventually go up in value. Now, there's a lot of things that are not that way. There's a bunch of stupid crypto tokens that are going to zero. Those are not the things you should buy no matter what. But for money, it's Bitcoin. For other things in the stock market, it's, whatever things in the stock market you have absolutely certainty will be around for the long haul. For me, Nothing in the stock market will be guaranteed to be around for the long haul, same way Bitcoin is guaranteed to be around for the long haul, which is why I don't own any stocks or bonds right now, because all the money I had in stocks or bonds has been converted to Bitcoin. Same. I don't have a high degree of conviction in any real estate investments, not commercial real estate, not residential real estate, no real estate. And therefore, I don't have any money in real estate because I don't have a conviction that that is a good investment. So I am 100% Bitcoin. I like being 100% Bitcoin. It is the one thing that I feel like is absolutely certain in the world that Bitcoin, that humans need money. Bitcoin is the best money. And I've done the work, the proof of work. I've done it to understand how Bitcoin works, how the protocol works, why it's impossible for humans to change that protocol in a way that would harm the monetary properties of Bitcoin. I understand how that works. I have done thousands of hours of due diligence to make sure that my conviction in Bitcoin is solid. So whether it's 112,000 or 114 like it is right now, or 117 or 124, again, in the long term, it won't matter. The same way all of those numbers, when you knock a zero off of them, don't matter. Back when I was buying Bitcoin in 2018, late 2017, early 2018, the price was bouncing around at about the same prices it's bouncing around now, just with a zero off. Basically, they were, the price was bouncing around with at roughly 10% of the current price. So 112 is the equivalent of 112, 11,200, up to 124 is 124, 12,400. So it'd be the equivalent of the price bouncing around between 11,200 and 12,400. That is the same percentage equivalent as compared to today's price. Now, I promise you 100% of people who own Bitcoin today, they do not care if they bought Bitcoin at 11,200 or 12,400. They just wish they could go back and buy as much Bitcoin as they possibly could back when you could still get Bitcoin close to $10,000. And the same will be true in the future. All the people that are obsessing about Bitcoin at 112 and 114 and 111 and 124, all the people that are obsessing about all of those numbers will one day look back when Bitcoin's 300,000, 500,000, 700,000, $1 million a coin, and they'll think, my gosh, I wish I had bought more Bitcoin in 2025. And nobody's going to be sitting around saying, yeah, but what price in 2025? It was multiple prices in 2025. What price in 2025? Just like now, nobody says, yeah, but what price in 2018? What price in 2019? Nobody asked that question because every price in 2018 was a good price. Every price in 2019 was a good price. Even though the price of Bitcoin bounced around a lot back then, the volatility was way higher than it is now. Even back then, if somebody says, I was buying Bitcoin in 2018, I've never heard anyone say, yeah, but what was the price in 2018? Everybody just knows if you bought Bitcoin in 2018, that was a smart move. Everybody knows if you bought Bitcoin in 2019, that was a smart move. Same here in 2025. You're buying Bitcoin at less than 125,000 a coin. That's a smart move. It doesn't matter if it's 111, 112, 114, 117, 118, 124. It just doesn't matter in the long term. And I know when I say that, you don't believe me, because if somebody had told me that back when I was buying Bitcoin between 11,200 and 12,400, I would have said, yeah, but that's like a 10% difference. It's getting like a 10% difference in my return, whether I buy it at 11,200 or 12,400. I just wish I had bought way more. Like, that's all that matters is how much Bitcoin you can accumulate. In the long term, the exact price you paid will matter way less than you think. What will matter is that you actually pull the trigger, that you actually bought the Bitcoin. You do not get credit for Bitcoin you thought about buying, Bitcoin you almost bought, Bitcoin you contemplated buying. You don't get credit for any of that. You only get credit for the Bitcoin you actually bought. The only Bitcoin I'm benefiting from is the Bitcoin I actually bought back then, not the Bitcoin I thought I was going to buy. When I bought some at $9,000, I thought if it ever drops to half that price, $4,500, I'm going to buy a bunch more. I didn't because it was down. And when the price of assets are down, people freak out and they think maybe there's a good reason they're down. They think maybe the price will go down more. So the cheapest I ever bought Bitcoin was $6,400. Even though I had told myself if it ever went down to 4,500, I was going to definitely buy more. Bitcoin spent months below $4,500 after I had committed myself I was going to do that. Guess what? I don't get credit. I don't get to spend $4,500 Bitcoin right now because I didn't buy $4,500 Bitcoin. The cheapest I ever bought was $6,400 Bitcoin because I didn't have the courage to pull the trigger when it went down to 4,500 because I had not done the work. I had not done the work to explore and understand and do the proof of work to understand every facet of Bitcoin and why it will always eventually go up and why it's the best performing asset of the 21st century. Now I've done that work, which is why I'm at 100% allocated to Bitcoin, but it's also why the average price I pay for Bitcoin is not 11,000 or 12,000, it's 35,000. Why? Because in addition to a bunch of cheap Bitcoin I bought way back, I had to buy a bunch of way more expensive Bitcoin that I wish I had bought a lot sooner. And I trust that everyone watching this will be in the same position at some point in the future because that's just the way it always is. But you can get ahead of that as much as possible by buying as much Bitcoin as you can right now. Have a great evening, everyone. I'm here for anything you need.